Okay. Okay, I have to click on something. Well, I'm hoping that this is working. So Janet asked me to do a reading from my book, and this is from the chapter about Mallacoota, because the book basically went along with my life, because I started writing it in October 2019 and I had one plan for the book, but of course it became like we'd all fallen into the plot of a film. So quite a lot of what happened actually ended up sounding like something out of a novel. So I just put it in the book. And when my mum's town of Mallacoota was attacked by this 20,000-foot monster fire, like out of some sort of, fire-breathing dragon narrative, I went into Mallacoota a few weeks later when we were allowed in, and actually just asked 6 of her friends what it was like to be there on the day. And when I came to write it, these narratives came together incredibly. And because of what happened with the fires and then COVID, I did actually have to add a lot of extra chapters into the book. But this one is just specifically about Nicholas in Mallacoota, who's in his 30s. And he is one of the few people who's decided to stay and defend in Mallacoota, because most people, well, everyone was told not to, or at least if they did choose to stay and defend, they would not be supported by the fire services, who'd actually ringed their trucks around, of course, the 4,000, 6,000 people down on the foreshore. And Nicholas and his father-in-law had decided to stay and defend. They were at opposite ends of this street, Terra Nova Drive, and they thought they were well prepared to stay in touch with each other because they had walkie-talkies. But when the fire front hit, the roar of the 747, the pitch black, the smoke, there was no way. They were on their own. So I'm going to pick up the reading there. Unexpectedly on his own, fortified with the desire to protect the life he's built, Nicholas enters survival mode, running up and down the street, fighting spot fires with buckets of water, occasionally a hose. At one point, a power line came down across the road out in front of my house, and it all started sparking. Oh God, my hand is at my mouth again. And then everything was blazing behind me, and then everything in front of me was on fire as well. And I just thought, well, I can't go inside the house because all the houses are burning. And then I thought, well, if things get too bad, I'll just zip down to the beach on my bike and I'll kind of hide under the cliff face. That was my genius plan. Good one, I nod. It worked. Well, not really, he laughs. So I jumped on my bike and then I head to the beach. Like a scene from a movie, he pedals like the wind down a corridor of fire. All the houses ablaze, all the tea trees ablaze, flames flying 4 times their height, fireballs arcing overhead. It was just raging through the air, and I get there and there's a staircase that goes down onto the beach, and that was on fire. And I ditched my bike and then I ran down the burning stairs, but the fire actually came down the cliff face and the beach was on fire, all the tussocks, and I saw them start burning down the beach and heading into town. And I was like, holy shit. And I couldn't go that way and it was burning down the cliff face. So I ran to where the boat ramp is. I got up to the top and my bike, it was burnt to a crisp. And then another front came through, but on the other side, and it went all the way down to the boat ramp, and I was kind of stuck in the middle then, so I had to run through the golf course. My jaw is on the floor as Nicholas describes running from the flames, ending up doing a 2-kilometre high-speed loop around the back of the fire front to the other end of Terra Nova Drive, checking in on his father-in-law, then sprinting back to his end to pick up a bucket again, where, if anything, conditions are worse. There was fire everywhere. Pretty much every fence was on fire. And then the bushes, trees, houses. And then it kind of escalated. Houses would catch on fire, and then the next house would catch on fire. Everything at that time was just chaos, really. I was just running, just putting out fires. Amid this sensory and emotional overload, with 10 houses burning around him, Nicholas's brain encodes a new knowledge, the dreadful keening sound a home makes just before it dies. It starts chuffing, like it's burning on the inside. It starts chuffing and you can see it. The windows start to bend and then bam, the windows pop and it just explodes like a freaking bomb. And then just the thought in your head, like the animals, all the trees, Nicholas looks up, grieving. It's like all the things, the beauty this place has to offer is burning in front of you, and it's out of your control, you know? There's nothing really. You're just a person with two buckets. Now, the reason I've been doing this as a reading at all the live talks that I've given is that when I wrote it, I didn't realize what a powerful and self-contained metaphor it is for all of us when it comes to the overwhelm of climate change. I mean, we're all really just a person with two buckets, and there's something so sort of visual about that. And we bring what buckets we can to the climate challenge. And some of us are going to have much bigger buckets, if you like, than others. You know, they're going to be much more able to switch the dial across. Mike Cannon-Brookes has got billions of dollars worth of buckets at his disposal. You've got people who are profound activists who've had an enormous impact. And then there's someone like me or you, and we bring what we can. We bring our own buckets. And if we want to extend the metaphor further, we can even put in these two buckets. One is our personal actions, the things that we do in our own life in order to have what we do as best can reflect our values. But we're never going to completely win on that, because you can't completely have a completely fossil fuel free life or without actually living in a hermitage and never engaging with anybody, because they're embedded in our plastics and all sorts of things. But that's changing. But then the other bucket is what you do as a group. It's what you decide to do, say, with your business or your organization, or your actual decision to do activism as a job. People make incredible impacts, individuals, when they come together, and you never know what your individual action will bring about. Back to that person with two buckets, it just so happened that he saved his house with those two buckets, and not only his own house, but several other houses of his neighbours as well. And if he hadn't been there, they would have all burnt down. There's lots of examples in my book of actions that individuals took, like the Castlemaine kids, who just thought they were going to have a climate strike of a few dozen people, and ended up being 15,000 people across Australia, which then set the bonfire up around the world for how climate strikes could be. There's all sorts of individual stories where a small action ended up having a much bigger impact than anybody could have imagined. And this is why I talk about we all can in a way be the hero of this story, because I mean, who was Frodo anyway? He was just a little hobbit. And Tolkien made him deliberately so, because he was reflecting on the challenges of World War II. And so he picked the smallest, most powerless character to actually be his central character to bring about the big change. But again, Frodo doesn't do it on his own. He does every single thing with collaboration. So I'll just finish with this final quote that is in the book that my friend pointed out dovetails in really well with the two buckets idea. We just bring our buckets. And it's a quote attributed to Gandhi, which is that whatever you do will be insignificant, and yet it is essential that you do it, because you never know what impact that action will have. And thank you.